story begins far away and long ago, in the time when fairy stories were true. Everywhere in the world, gods and magical spirits were at work, and none had more power than the old man of the mountain. He was present in the trees, and in the wind, and in the air. He was a friend of all living things, from the creatures of the forest to the people in the valley. From his home in the great mountain, he watched over them, and whenever the people got themselves into trouble, he would come down to help them. Sometimes he appeared as a giant, but more often he put on his favorite disguise, as an old man of the mountain. Once upon a time in the valley, there was a large and prosperous town. It was a very fine place for the most part. There was a town square with a monument, a fine church on the edge of the town, and very many fine houses where the hard-working, prosperous townspeople lived. The only tumble-down building in the whole place was the school, for the people here cared only about making money, and there was no money to be made out of a school. Now, the old man of the mountains was not too happy about the matter of the school. He thought the children were getting a very poor deal in this town, especially Tom, whose father wouldn't even let him have a sausage for his snack, but sent him off to school with only a piece of dried bread. Inside the school, the teaching was as ramshackle as the schoolhouse itself. Rake, sir.
Now, 1 fork and 1 rake, mate.
Hey, sir.
Yes, boy, but how many do 1 rake and 1 fork make?
1, 2. The teacher was the best the town could expect for the little they were prepared to pay. He was a dull and dreary man, and the school, of course, was not very well equipped. When it rained, all sorts of creatures sought shelter in the schoolhouse. Everything came in, but so did the rain. The roof leaked because the teacher was lazy as well as dull and hadn't bothered to mend it. Now, the hens and goats and chickens belonged to Tom's no-good father, who expected the children at the school to look after his livestock instead of doing lessons. He was a cruel man, and the children tried to keep out of his way as much as possible. Now, the old man of the mountains had been watching all this, and he decided it was time to take a hand. He waited until Tom's miserly father returned home. How can I run a business if those children stop my hens from laying? He moaned to his wife. Just look at this. Only one basket of eggs. I'll never make a profit this way. How will we ever make any money? You already have money, said Melinda, his wife. Look at all this you have saved. Now the old man of the mountains heard her, and that gave him an idea. He went into the inn and asked for eggs. Imagine the surprise of all the regulars. Eggs that turned into gold pieces. It must be a trick. But the old man of the mountains knew how greedy Tom's dad was, and so he went off round the town, inviting everybody to a free egg feast at the inn. Tom's dad and his wife were busy cracking eggs and more eggs. But of course, no gold pieces appeared. Oh, what lovely eggs, said the old man. It would be such a pity to waste them. So Melinda got cooking. Fried eggs, poached eggs, scrambled eggs, omelette. Everyone in the town enjoyed the egg feast. And the children loved it best of all. Now the old man thought perhaps Tom's miserly father had learned his lesson. He magicked a gold coin to pay for the feast. But Tom's dad no sooner clapped eyes on it than he said it wasn't enough. And this made the old man angry.
So, you are too mean to give even a few eggs away. It seems to me you are very rich. What you are is a miser who wouldn't spend a penny on others. There are too many of you in this town.
Well, the people were ashamed of themselves, even Tom's dad. The old man of the mountain showed them just how their children had been neglected. They very soon rebuilt the school. And appointed a new teacher. The old teacher was happy just to sit about all day. Ever after that, although most of the townspeople continued to work hard, and although they still saved money, they were never quite so selfish as before. Our story begins far away and long ago, in the time when fairy stories were true. Everywhere in the world, gods and magical spirits were at work, and none had more power than the old man of the mountain. He was present in the trees, and in the wind, and in the air. He was a friend of all living things, from the creatures of the forest to the people in the valley. From his home in the great mountain, he watched over them, and whenever the people got themselves into trouble, he would come down to help them. Sometimes he appeared as a giant, but more often he put on his favorite disguise, as an old man of the mountain. Now, once upon a time, all sorts of things began to disappear in the valley. And strange to say, it always seemed to happen after Joachim the messenger had called. He was a cunning fellow, always looking for ways of getting something for nothing. He'd pretend he was cold, so the cobbler would give him a drink. He was a greedy sort of chap, never shy to ask for more. He took messages and parcels from house to house for money, and even brought homemade chutney for the cobbler from his own mother who lived on the other side of the valley. Joachim was becoming greedier and greedier, and the old man of the mountains had had his eye on him for some time. The messenger would never do anything for anyone unless he was paid for it. But he always expected favors for himself for nothing. So the old man of the mountains decided it was time he took a hand in his affairs. Wherever he went, the messenger met people who lent him money, but he never paid them back. He didn't seem to be able to stop himself. He'd become light-fingered, his hands straight to anything he found and just popped it into his bag. He even tried to sell things to the people he was stealing from. He had no idea of right or wrong. He needed a good lesson. It was becoming a full-time job for the old man of the mountains, putting right the mischief Joachim was causing. But Joachim didn't care. He was getting richer and richer. He'd become so bad, he'd even beg for tobacco from an old man and then steal the lot when he wasn't looking. But if he had realized who he was stealing from this time, even he might have thought better of it. This time he got hold of something far too hot for him to handle. Oh dear, what a disaster. He would have to pay for all the breakages. Useless to pretend he was penniless. No one believed him. The people in the town were not so easily fobbed off. And what's more, they wanted to know what else he had in his bag. Out came all the things that had so mysteriously disappeared. The stallholder vowed she'd make sure they were returned to their rightful owners. Joachim would never be able to fool anyone again. All he had left was the last thing in the world he wanted. The magic walking stick. He knew what he must do. He went straight back up the mountain and put it back where he had found it, taking up his old stick in its place. He had truly learned his lesson. begins far away and long ago, in the time when fairy stories were true. Everywhere in the world, gods and magical spirits were at work, and none had more power than the old man of the mountains. He was present in the trees, and in the wind, and in the air. He was a friend of all living things, from the creatures of the forest to the people in the valley. From his home in the great mountain, he watched over them, and whenever the people got themselves into trouble, he would come down to help them. Sometimes he appeared as a giant, but more often he put on his favorite disguise, as an old man of the mountains. Now all the animals of the forest and valley trusted each other and lived very happily in their beautiful country. Everything would have been perfect, except for one or two people like Osbert, who quite simply was a hooligan. He delighted in spoiling everything. It was time for the old man of the mountains that Osbert was taken in hand. It happened one day that Ludmilla was gathering blueberries to preserve for the winter when Osbert came along. Aha, he thought. She thinks she's doing very well here. I'll soon change that. Pretending he'd found even better blueberries further down the track, he persuaded her into going to look for them, and then set about destroying all her good work. He only laughed when Ludmilla found out how he tricked her. It was his idea of a joke. But the old man of the mountains was not amused. In fact, he was furious. First, he put things right for Ludmilla, and then he set off after Osbert. Osbert's next victim was a poor traveler who at first was quite happy to share his bread until he realized who he was dealing with. Osbert frightened him into giving it all, and that might have been enough. But then he found to his delight that there was more. jewels, dazzling and beautiful. He couldn't believe his luck. Straight to the inn he went to celebrate his newfound fortune. But the traveller was not going to let him get away with it. The jewels had belonged to his dead wife and were all that he had. He followed Osbert and saw him gloating over the treasure. At once, he fetched the town guard and accused him. Osbert was fetched up before the judge. Questions and more questions, and it was soon clear that although the bag belonged to Osbert, the jewels inside did not. He had stolen them. The judge consulted the books of law and passed sentence. Osbert was to be taken immediately to prison for 25 weeks. He seemed so unhappy that the old man of the mountains was sorry for him and used his magic powers so that time in prison went quickly. When Osbert was freed, the old man was waiting for him. He hoped that the imprisonment had shown him the error of his ways. Alas, he didn't seem one bit sorry. He wouldn't listen. The old man of the mountains gave him one last chance. But when he showed he was still ready to bully and torment the first person to cross his path, even a poor old woman, then the old man of the mountains knew there was no hope for him. He would never mend his ways. There was nothing left but to banish Osbert from the valley forever. Our story begins far away and long ago, in the time when fairy stories were true. Everywhere in the world, gods and magical spirits were at work, and none had more power than the old man of the mountains. He was present in the trees and in the wind and in the air. He was a friend of all living things, from the creatures of the forest to the people in the valley. From his home in the great mountain, he watched over them, and whenever the people got themselves into trouble, he would come down to help them. Sometimes he appeared as a giant, but more often he put on his favorite disguise, as an old man of the mountains. Once upon a time, in a rough, tumble-down cottage in the valley, lived a very poor lady called Anna, whose husband had left her long ago. Her 3 children tried to be helpful, but it wasn't always easy. Anna was a cross patch, and she often lost her temper. Now the old man of the mountains was sorry for Anna. She had so much to do, he thought. It was no wonder she lost her temper, and he set to work to help in her garden, helping himself to a few raspberries at the same time. This made Anna furious. "You horrible old man!" she shouted. "You're trespassing! Get off my land! Go on, get out! Go on, please! Go on, please! This is my land! Go on, shoot! Get out! I don't need a horrible old man with a dirty old beard to help me! I can manage on my own!" "Really?" thought the old man of the mountains. "Can you? You don't need an old man to help. Then you can have a beard yourself." And his dreadful magic worked its spell. "Help! Mother! Mother! Come and look at our mother!" Her 3 children were surprised. But not nearly so surprised as Anna. No matter how hard she tried to cut off her beard, the more it grew back. All her efforts were useless. The children began to think it was funny. And Anna, a good hard-working person at heart, decided she wouldn't be beaten. Now, she thought, looking at her old broom, that gives me an idea. An endless supply of wiry red hair could be put to many good uses. There was no end of things she found to use it for. It made very fine cloth indeed. Her home became the pride of the valley. The neighbors were very impressed. They all agreed that she had something they wanted. Word spread like wildfire, so they went in search of the old man. Please, they begged, please, can we all have lovely magic beards as well? Please, oh please. The old man was not used to such treatment. But, he thought, if that's what they really wanted, he'd let them have their own way. Oh, thank you, said the silly women. You've no idea how happy we are. Goodness, the old man just didn't understand people. But their beards were not what the women had longed for. These women just had beards, not special magic bristles to mend brooms and make carpets. Their dreams of saving money from magic hair disappeared. It wasn't long before they were lining up before the old man once more to beg him to break his magic spell. And then, apart from a razor cut or two, they were as good as new. And so was Anna. But the moment her beard disappeared, so too did everything she'd made from it. Even the thatch on the roof. Anna was very cross indeed. She had been quite happy with her magic beard. But the spirit of the mountains always did things in his own way, and he knew that however hard her life seemed, Anna must learn not to be a cross patch. Our story begins far away and long ago, in the time when fairy stories were true. Everywhere in the world, gods and magical spirits were at work, and none had more power than the old man of the mountains. He was present in the trees and in the wind and in the air. He was a friend of all living things, from the creatures of the forest to the people in the valley. From his home in the great mountain, he watched over them, and whenever the people got themselves into trouble, he would come down to help them. Sometimes he appeared as a giant, but more often he put on his favorite disguise, as an old man of the mountains. Now on the mountainside there was the workshop of one of the first craftsmen in the country, Gilbert, the glassblower. He was devoted to his work and to his wife Ludmilla, who waited faithfully down in the valley every evening for him to come home. Now one evening, Gilbert packed up his day's worth of glasses as usual and was on his way home when he was stopped by Rob, an old school friend.
Come and have a drink,
said Rob. Can't, no money, said Gilbert.
Never mind that.
I'll treat you, said Rob. So in they went to the pub. Ludmilla waited and waited, but Rob and Gilbert were having much too good a time to give any thought to her. Ludmilla was very worried. Gilbert had never been so late before. But at last, Gilbert himself realized he should be on his way, and in a very happy state, he began to make ready for home. It turned out that wicked Rob had no money either, but he had known all along that the innkeeper would accept Gilbert's newly made tankards instead of money. So, he simply took them. His friend was too drunk to notice. Gilbert felt very wobbly on his legs when he left the inn after all that drinking, but he set off for home, followed by the wicked Rob. Once inside, Gilbert tried to pretend he wasn't late, but Ludmilla wasn't fooled. I didn't mean it, my love. Don't you my love me? How could you? If you prefer your no-good friend to me, then go with him and welcome. I don't want you, she shouted. Ludmilla was in despair. Oh, mountain spirit, she cried, what shall I do? He's so easily led astray, my husband. Help me, please. Meanwhile, Gilbert and Rob went on their drunken way over the mountain. When they came to a bridge above a deep ravine, they noticed the fence was broken, and there at the bottom lay an old man. He must have fallen.
Now leave him, said Rob. He must be dead by now.
No, said Gilbert. We must help. And he hurried down to see what he could do. Thank you, said the old man of the mountains, for of course it was a spirit in disguise. There are those who would leave an old man to die. I'm glad to see you are not one of them. Rob pretended not to care, but the old man had listened to Ludmilla's plea and wanted to help Gilbert. So he showed him his secret way into the mountain. Come, he said, I must reward you for your kindness. Oh dear, I must get that fixed. Come this way. Deeper into the mountain they went. And the old man showed Gilbert treasures beyond his wildest dreams. But Gilbert was an honest man. No, he said, I cannot accept such riches simply for picking an old man off the ground. It would not be fair. By this time, Ludmilla had set off after Gilbert. But then Gilbert saw something he did like. Beautiful glass. It must have been made by dwarves long ago. The old man told him that this was true. Even their furnace and tools still remained in the heart of the mountain. In the olden days, the old man himself had tried to blow glass, but had never been much good at it. Would you like to try the dwarf's old blowing pipe? Gilbert was thrilled, and neither he nor the old man realized that wicked Rob had been following them. He had no scruples about helping himself to the treasure. Gilbert was lost in his work. The old dwarves would have been proud of such work, my son, said the spirit of the mountain. They would have wished you to have this for your workshop. Gilbert was thrilled to think of everything he would be able to make. Ludmilla was frantic, following him further and further up the mountain. Farewell, said the old man. Go back to your faithful wife and be grateful to her. Now to fix that entrance, he thought. How was wicked Rob going to get out? I'm afraid that's your problem, said the old man. No one has asked you to come here after all. You just have to think of something. But outside, Ludmilla had at last found her Gilbert again. What a happy reunion they had. They lived happily ever after, for Gilbert was able to make even finer glass with the dwarf's magic blowing tube. And funnily enough, they never ran into that wicked old friend Rob. ever again. Our story begins far away and long ago, in the time when fairy stories were true. Everywhere in the world, gods and magical spirits were at work, and none had more power than the old man of the mountains. He was present in the trees and in the wind and in the air. He was a friend of all living things, from the creatures of the forest to the people in the valley. From his home in the great mountain, he watched over them, and whenever the people got themselves into trouble, he would come down to help them. Sometimes he appeared as a giant, but more often he put on his favorite disguise, as an old man of the mountains. Once upon a time in the valley, there lived a charcoal burner. He loved his work, and left to himself his life would have been perfectly happy. But his wife was a noisy, nagging sort of woman. She ruled her husband with a rod of iron and always had jobs for him to do. As fast as he did them, she thought of something else. He never had a quiet moment. His only relief from this constant nagging was to wander in the forest. One day, he was gathering mushrooms when he startled a young deer. The animal fell and hurt its leg. The old man of the mountains heard it and came at once, but the charcoal burner had already helped the poor creature. The old man of the mountains was pleased with the charcoal burner and decided to help him. But there were no kind words waiting for him at home. It was back to the old routine, and even the patient charcoal burner almost lost his temper. But the sight of small birds fallen from their nest was enough to restore his kind nature. That was all the old man of the mountains needed to know. Listen to me, he said. I want you to do as I say. I want you to go down to the farm today with your supply of charcoal. But I don't usually go on a Monday. What will my wife say? But he trusted the old man and set off in his cart. Stop, 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 you simpleton! Cried his wife. What are you doing, going off on a Monday? Anyway, the cow hasn't been milked. You can just do that first. Now his wife wasn't just a nagger. She was lazy and greedy as well, and for a time she forgot about her husband, who managed to get away without her seeing him. By and by, an old man came to the door. Please, can you spare something for a hungry old man? I'll give you some gruel, but you have to work for it, she said. And the old man of the mountains was given a bowl of thin gruel. Then he had to fetch manure for the garden. Finished, he called. Finished? How could you have finished already? That's useless, useless! You're supposed to spread it! Now spread it properly, go on! Stop, folk. That's quite enough work for one bowl of thin gruel. Now, the charcoal burner's wife thought she might try the same tricks on the old man that she used on her husband. But the old man of the mountains had a few tricks of his own. She was about to learn her lesson. Although it was summer, snow began to fall around the charcoal burner's house. The nagging wife could learn what it was like to be as cold as her heart. And the old man of the mountains went off to get warm somewhere else, while the snow continued to fall. But only on the charcoal burner's house. Down at the inn, the old man was enjoying himself while his spell went on working. In fact, he was enjoying himself so much that he'd forgotten all about it until the charcoal burner himself came in for a drink before he went home to face his wife. Oh, goodness, the old man remembered. I must help him. But by now, the snow was up to the roof. Oh my, said the charcoal burner, she'll be frozen to death. No, 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 said the old man, not her. In fact, she was burning the furniture to keep warm, and she was doing all the hard work herself. I wonder if she's learned her lesson, said the old man. Just in case she hasn't, you'd better have this. What is it? Asked the charcoal burner. Never mind what it is exactly, said the old man. Just use it whenever she's asking too much of you. Just point that at the sky and shake it. I don't think you'll have any more trouble. Well, the charcoal burner's wife did try to be better. But people don't change their ways all that easily. whenever she forgot her lesson, the weather would mysteriously change. It was wonderful then how quickly she remembered and got on with her own work as fast as she could.